The heart rate that betrayed us. At 2:17 a.m., my wife's smartwatch buzzed on the nightstand. I picked it up to silence it and saw a red graph spiking like a cardiogram in a disaster movie. Heart rate, 156. Sleep mode, off. Outdoor run detected. Except she was asleep next to me. I put the watch back, careful not to make a sound, and stared at the ceiling while the apartment sounded like the sea, pipes clicking softly, the old fridge exhaling. In the morning she stretched, kissed my cheek, and said she slept like a log. I didn't say a word about the graph or the 27 minutes the watch said she'd been outside. I told myself it was a glitch. I told myself everything except the thing my gut was trying to write on the inside of my ribs. Something is wrong. The second night the same alert woke me. The watch showed a tiny necklace of GPS dots skirting our block like a cautious animal. Pace, fast. Shoes by the door, clean. By the third night I had turned into the kind of man who knows that lies develop routines faster than love does. My name is Daniel, 38, married 7 years. We had been through layoffs, and the time the roof leaked, and that week when our daughter had a fever and we slept in shifts on the floor with a cold towel. We thought a marriage like ours had already taken its exams. Friday, I told Lena I'd be working late. I sat in the car across from our building with the dash cam pointed at the side gate that leads to the property next door. Our neighbor is Roman, 40s, soft voice, forearms like ropes, volunteers at a boxing club, the kind of man who can open jars and hearts. At 2:09 a.m., the lobby doors pushed a rectangle of light into the courtyard. Lena slipped out with her hood up. She did not run. She moved with the smooth purpose of someone late to a conversation. She passed the birch trees, touched the side gate like a pianist keys, and disappeared onto Roman's property. The basement light came on. In the small window, two upper bodies blurred by glass and distance. They didn't look like a run. They looked like a secret. I sat bone still and listened to my own breathing. Somewhere in one of the other apartments, a kettle clicked off. Somewhere a man laughed at a late show. In my car, I was learning a new kind of loneliness that wears your own face back at you in the rear view. When she returned, the dashcam clock said 2:37. Her cheeks had the color I used to call morning. She wiped the door handle with her sleeve, careful in all the wrong places. I went upstairs and got into bed. She made a small, contented sound and curled toward me as if bodies could be faithful when hearts are not. The next day I put her watch by her coffee. "Your night runs are ambitious," I said. She smiled in that way that a mirror would, smooth and without past, clears my head. I nodded like a man who keeps a spare head in the freezer for emergencies. "Roman's basement must have great air," I said, the smile drained. "We should talk after work," she whispered. We didn't talk. I placed the dashcam footage on our TV and pressed play. The basement light, the two silhouettes, the shape of a hand finding a waist. She put both palms over her mouth and made a sound that could have been shame or fear trying to get out at the same time. "It was once," she said. "3 times," I answered. "Do you know why I know that? Because lies take the same route home." She said she felt invisible. She said Roman listened, that he didn't correct her sentences or check his email while she was mid-story. I stood there looking at our gallery wall and saw a museum of brave little frames. "He didn't judge," I said, "because he didn't promise." At some point I sat. At some point we both stopped pretending the couch hadn't moved further from the window over the last month. That evening I walked. Not away from her, at first, but around the block where the GPS dots had made their pretty necklace. I touched the birch tree and thought how white it was, how soft to the eye, how easily it could be the background of something you never wanted to see. I passed Roman's gate and kept going because some scenes do not belong to the living. My father once told me that betrayal feels big at first and then small forever, like a meteor that makes a crater you keep tripping over on your way to the mailbox. I went home and packed a bag, chargers curled like sleeping snakes, 2 shirts I didn't have to think about. Lena stood by the bedroom door, not blocking it, not moving. "Is there a way back?" she asked. I looked at her without being able to see her. "Back is a direction," I said. "Trust is a place." At my friend's spare apartment, the bed felt like a clean sheet of paper. I lay on it and listened to traffic peel itself thin against the dawn. I wrote an email to the boxing club about a donation in Roman's name and didn't send it. I deleted a message to Lena that said nothing except "I loved you" in the past tense. Around noon, I opened a blank document and titled it, "What Happens Next?" It stayed blank. The thing about empty pages is they look like freedom and feel like wind. Weeks are long when you've switched from we to I the Monday after. I visited a lawyer who kept a cactus on his desk and spoke like he was used to people unraveling in his chair. "You have a child?" he asked, and I showed him a photo of Mia on the swing, hair flying forward, teeth out like she was biting the air before it could bite her. "I want to keep the house," I said. "I want to keep the stories that happened there without having to keep the story that ended it." He nodded as if I had finally said something true. Lena texted that evening, "Please come talk." I replied, "Not yet, not like this." She sent a photo of Mia's drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands under a shaky sun. My head went hot. Love is an organ you can't donate. The body needs it to live. Thursday, I went to the courtyard at 2 in the morning, stood by the birches, and watched the basement window. It stayed dark. I watched the watch face of my own phone move its thin mouth toward 3. When I finally went upstairs, I didn't knock. My key still worked because some lines take longer to erase than others. Lena sat on the couch with her legs tucked under, our wedding album open on the coffee table like a witness that can only tell one story. She said she had ended it. She said she had called Roman and told him the air in his basement was not air but fog. She said she wanted us to try. I believed parts of the sentence and none of its grammar. "Trying is for new recipes," I said. "What we need is a new kitchen." The next day I told my boss I would be working from home less and living there even less. He said the company had seen worse. I said I hadn't. Mia asked why I wasn't there for pancakes, and I told her I was learning to make a different breakfast. She nodded like children do when you hand them a heavy box and call it a game. Months later, when the papers were inside envelopes with destinations, I sat in a coffee shop across from the courthouse and watched a man open a door for a woman the way a person who keeps promises opens anything, gently, fully, without looking around to see who noticed. I thought of Roman's forearms and of birch bark and of a watch face lighting a dark room with something the room couldn't return. I wrote a note on a napkin. Numbers are honest. People are complicated. I keep the watch. It's in a drawer with spare batteries and the paper heart Mia cut out for Valentine's Day. Sometimes I take it out and charge it and watch the line steady at 68, 70, 72. I wear it for long walks. It buzzes when I hit 10,000 steps. Sometimes I stop at 9,900 and stand outside our old building until it buzzes on its own, as if it knows I am there, as if anything that counts can count on me. Thanks for listening. Tell me which country you're watching from and how old you are. And if your night ever taught you something your day refused to say, I hope your morning is kind enough to let you start again.